All right, so in module 3, we learn more advanced Excel functions and features. We learn more about financial functions and especially amortization. I start with some simple functions in the first part of the module 3. And then I go through all of these functions and show you one example of each. And in the second part, I show you how you can combine these functions and features to solve Excel problems. The second part is very similar to your grader assignment. So make sure that you watch those videos before you start working on your grader. All right, so I start with year and days function. The year function simply returns the year of a certain date. You see that it only gets one argument, and that's the date, right? So, for example, for this one, it should return 2015. And if I drag it and copy this function to these cells, it returns 2014 and 2011 for these two other dates. You can even use it to do calculations. Like I can say, what's the difference between this date and again, let's go with this one. Let's see. It tells me that there are 3 years difference between 2014 and 2011, which is correct. Same is with the days function. It takes 2 arguments, end date and start date, and then it shows you how many days these 2 dates are apart. So my end date is this one, and the start date is this one, and I get the number of days that these 2 dates are apart. A simple function that can show you the difference between these 2 dates is year frac. Year frac, which shows the fractions of the difference between these 2 dates. Again, it takes 2 arguments, the start date and the end date. This is the start date and the end date. And then I drag it. If I increase the decimals, you will see that it shows the fraction as well. So what it means that the difference between these 2 dates is 5 years and 0.6 of a year. Or this one is sharp 7 years because they're exactly the same date, only the years are different. Another function is the switch function, and it's a matching function. It's kind of similar to VLOOKUP in that we have 2 tables and a reference table, and then we're trying to match values here from this reference table. But it's a little bit different from VLOOKUP function. What I want to do here is that I want to find the corresponding state for each of these cities that are listed in under city column. So what I need to do is that I use switch function to find values from this table. You see I have cities here and the states are listed in this table. So that's what I'm going to do. Again, equal switch, select it. It gives me the arguments that I need to use. Always start with the first cell in the column that you're looking for. It's matching. For example, here I start with city first cell, which is Boston. And it should be a relative reference, right? So I just click on it and I don't use any $sign because I want it to change. So I always start with this cell and then comma. And then I tell switch function, if this value is Boston, then again, comma, make sure that the spelling is correct, then switch it for MR. Again, if this value is Boston, then switch it for MR. See, I just click on, I could write MR too. I could write double quote and then MR, but I prefer to use cell references and a comma. And then I continue. How many other values I have? I have San Francisco and I have Hawaii, and I have 2 other Boston. So I know that I have only 3 values, right? So I have to write 3 expressions for my switch function. If it's Boston, then it's M3. If it's San Francisco, again, make sure the spelling is correct, then it's CA. So you can pause this video and write the 3rd expression for Hawaii. Okay, I assume that you do that. And then you say if it's Hawaii, then switch it for HI or Hawaii. It returns the correct value for Boston because Boston is in Massachusetts, so this is correct. But one more thing that you need to do, because we want to copy this, because we want to copy this function, is to make these absolute or lock them, because we don't want them to change, right? They will show other values if we make them relative references. So the only thing that is relative is this column, because we want them to switch function to go through each of them one by one, right? So I drag it and test it if it works. It's working, right? San Francisco in California, Hawaii is in Hawaii, and Boston is in Massachusetts. You could also write it with using VLOOKUP function. Again, you can pause this video and try to return these values using a VLOOKUP function. And I want to show you later how to do that. All right, so let's see how we can return the same value using VLOOKUP function. Again, we need a common column, right, between this table and this table. The common column is the it's Boston. It's the city column, right? And I click on Boston here. Again, make it relative. Next one is the table array. So I select this range. Again, we said that it should be absolute, so F4. What column index we're looking for? It's a state, so 1, 2, 3. And then finally false, because we're looking for the exact match. And there you go, it's now returning exactly the same value. Again, I drag it. I get exactly the same values using VLOOKUP. So when using Excel, just remember that sometimes you have different options how you want to answer that question, but usually use the one that takes less time to be completed, and usually go with the one that takes less argument.